But Dave Campbell's Texas football, as you know, teams up with the Academy Sports and Outdoors Texas Bowl to present the Mr. Texas Football Player of the Year award presented by Wells Fargo to the most outstanding high school football player in the state of Texas. It is something that we take very seriously because it's something that it's the most prestigious award in Texas high school football. If you win Mr. Texas Football, you have been named by us, allegedly the leading publication in Texas high school football, as the best player in that year. Last year, remember, it was Mission Veterans Memorial quarterback Landry Gilpin. Past winners have included Kyler Murray. He won the award twice. Jonathan Gray, Johnny Manziel, Spencer Sanders, Garrett Gilbert, Jaquiz Rogers. It's a who's who. Rashad Paul. It's a who's who of Texas high school football legends, right, to become the Mr. Texas Football Player of the Year. And before we announce it, I feel like it's probably worth mentioning, and just being open and honest with it, that this was not unanimous. Yep. Like, normally, that's not to say that any of us necessarily disagree,
right?
Mm-hmm. But this was something that I talked with the staff, I talked with people outside of it, and this was difficult. Last year, I think once with Landry, mm-hmm. I think once we looked at the numbers and once we started considering what he had done.
Yeah, once you put it in the context of what he did for Mission Vets and what he did for the Valley as a whole,
mm-hmm.
like,
I think everyone was like, "Oh yeah, I think he's the guy."
Yeah,
that's not to say that everybody's not on board with it. Mm-hmm. It's just to say that there was a healthy debate mm-hmm. about who this should be.
Yeah,
it is something that we take very seriously here. And the winner, by the way, will be honored on the field at the Academy Sports and Outdoors Texas Bowl on Friday, December 27th at NRG Stadium when the Texas A&M Aggies take on the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Without any further ado, it is my deep pleasure to announce the 2019 Mr. Texas Football Player of the Year is Frisco Lone Star wide receiver Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims put together one of the most remarkable seasons in Texas high school football history, finishing with 117 catches for 2,629 yards, which is both a state record and a national record, as well as 32 touchdowns. Aside from setting the national single-season receiving yards mark, Mims also finished as the state's all-time leading receiver in a career, finishing with 5,485 yards, breaking the mark set by Jordan Shipley in 2003. His prolific talents fueled a Frisco Lone Star offense that averaged 49.2 points per game and pushed the Rangers into the Class 5A Division I state semifinals for just the second time in program history. Mims' gaudy numbers and stalwart leadership make him a worthy recipient of the 2019 Mr. Texas Football Player of the Year award. Very exciting. He's the first receiver to ever win this award, which is certainly saying something. That's not to say that other guys have not gone on to be receivers at the next level. Rashad Paul from Bremont went on to be a receiver at the college level. But Marvin Mims is the first high school receiver to become the Mr. Texas Football Player of the Year award winner. And as I mentioned, it was a very tough decision. All 10 of those finalists, and heck, go back to the semifinalist list, were incredibly, incredibly deserving. But in the end, what Marvin Mims brought to Frisco Lone Star and the history that he made with the Rangers make him, in my mind, and I think in the mind of Dave Campbell's Texas Football, a worthy recipient of the 2019 Mr. Texas Football Player of the Year award. Congratulations to Marvin Mims. He will be honored at the Academy Sports and Outdoors Texas Bowl on Friday, December 27th at NRG Stadium when A&M takes on Oklahoma State. Very well deserved, and it's exciting. I'm really happy to give it to a receiver.
Yeah.
If you look over the course of the history of it, it's been pretty quarterback heavy.
Yeah.
Great running backs in there as well, but basically quarterbacks and running backs. To give it to a receiver, I think really speaks to what a great year was for receivers, and he obviously had a record-setting season.
Yeah. When you look at like Frisco Lone Star's schedule, when you look at just kind of an encapsulation of everything, right? It was the most statistically impressive season. It was, for the longest time, they were considered probably the best team at that level in the state. Like, they were number one for the longest time. And you looked at their number one dynamic guy, it was Marvin Mims.
And you look at the impact he made. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, he was certainly, he was the straw that stirred the drink.
Right.
In that for that Lone Star offense.
And I think it shouldn't be left unsaid too that he's a good kid too.
Sure.
I've asked Coach Rayburn about him every time that I've been in contact with Rayburn, and he says, he's unbelievably smart. Before he was at Oklahoma. He got accepted into Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
He makes great grades. He's good with the community. So that goes a long way too.
Absolutely. You know, that's another thing to consider. You know what I mean? Like by naming somebody Mr. Texas Football Player of the Year, we're like putting our stamp on him. Right. And so I always make sure I talk to the coach, and we make sure he's a character kid. You know what I mean? Because, that's not to say that the other people we consider weren't character kids. That's just say that's something that's important to us. And Marvin Mims is certainly a high character kid. And so congratulations to the 2019 Mr. Texas Football Player of the Year, Frisco Lone Star wide receiver Marvin Mims. He'll be honored at the Academy Sports and Outdoors Texas Bowl.